Tom hadn't planned on walking that far into the woods that evening. As a single dad in a small town outside Manchester, most of his days were spent juggling shifts at the garage and bedtime stories for his 8-year-old son, Liam. Money was tight, but they managed, and Tom had learned to live with the constant weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. That night, he only wanted a quiet moment after work, a slow walk beneath the damp autumn trees while Liam stayed with a neighbor. The forest was unusually silent, the kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing. He almost missed the sound at first, a faint, broken whisper carried by the wind. Tom stopped, heart thudding, convinced it was his imagination. Then he heard it again, clearer this time. "Help me." Tom's stomach tightened as the whisper drifted through the trees again. He turned slowly, scanning the undergrowth, telling himself it was probably kids messing about or the wind playing tricks. But the voice came once more, weaker this time, edged with panic. He stepped off the narrow path, boots sinking into damp soil, pushing through brambles that clawed at his jacket. "Hello?" he called out, his voice unsteady despite his effort to sound calm. For a moment there was nothing but the rustle of leaves. Then he saw it, a patch of disturbed earth near an old fallen oak, freshly turned and uneven. His pulse hammered in his ears as he moved closer. A hand broke through the soil, trembling. Not a ghost, not a prank. A real hand, pale and shaking, fighting to reach the air. Tom froze, mind racing, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. "Hold on, I've got you," he shouted, dropping to his knees beside the mound of soil. The hand flailed weakly, nails caked with dirt, desperation written in every movement. Tom grabbed a sturdy branch and started digging, chunks of wet earth flying, his jacket and hands coated in grime. The whisper came again, hoarse and urgent. "Please, don't let me die." Tom swallowed hard, adrenaline pushing him forward, ignoring the creeping fear that someone or something might be watching. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, he unearthed her head and shoulders. She gasped, coughing, eyes wide with shock and terror, dirt streaked across her pale face. "Thank God," she whispered, voice barely audible, trembling against him. Tom helped her sit up, heart still racing, realizing this was no ordinary rescue. The woods had changed everything tonight. Tom's hands shook as he helped her steady herself, brushing clumps of soil from her hair and jacket. Who did this?" he asked, voice low, wary of drawing attention. She swallowed hard, eyes darting around the dark trees, trembling. They thought I was dead," she whispered, voice cracking. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Whoever they were, this wasn't random. "Can you walk?" he asked gently, offering his arm. She nodded weakly, gripping him like a lifeline, legs unsteady as she rose. Every step back toward the path felt heavier, the forest suddenly menacing, shadows stretching like silent threats. "Why were you buried alive?" Tom asked, careful, trying to mask the panic rising in his chest. She met his eyes, voice barely a whisper. "Because I knew something they didn't want anyone to find." Tom's gut twisted. This was bigger than either of them. Tom guided her carefully through the undergrowth, branches snapping underfoot, each sound echoing like a warning. Her grip on his arm tightened, and he realized she might collapse at any moment. Where can we go?" she asked, voice quivering. "Back to my place," Tom said firmly, thinking fast. "It's safe. We can call the police from there." She hesitated, fear flickering across her face, then nodded. As they moved, her whispers grew more urgent. They'll come looking. You have to help me stay hidden." Tom swallowed hard, adrenaline and worry mixing. Protecting his son had always been his priority, but this woman, a stranger, was now in his care. Somewhere in the shadows, the woods seemed to watch, silent and ominous. Every rustle of leaves made Tom flinch, imagining eyes following them. He glanced at her, pale and shaken, and promised silently, "I won't let anything happen to you." The forest wasn't just dark, it felt alive. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, Tom's lungs burned, and his legs ached from the scramble. He kept glancing over his shoulder, half expecting someone to emerge from the shadows. "She needs to get cleaned up," he muttered, thinking of his small flat near the station. She nodded, still trembling, voice barely audible. I can't believe someone buried me." Tom felt a surge of anger, cold and sharp. "Whoever did this, they're going to pay." She shivered, gripping his sleeve. "You don't understand. It's bigger than that. They're rich, powerful. They can make people disappear." Tom's heart sank. This wasn't just a crime, it was something darker, more dangerous than he could have imagined. He quickened his pace, knowing every second counted. Tonight, his quiet life of shifts and bedtime stories had vanished. Everything had changed in a single whisper. The city lights ahead offered safety, or at least the illusion of it. Tom's flat came into view, small and modest, but for now, it was a haven. He guided her inside, closing the door with a firm click, listening for any sounds from outside. She sank onto the sofa, hands trembling, eyes wide and haunted. Tom grabbed a blanket from the chair and draped it over her shoulders. "Drink this," he said, offering a mug of warm tea. She took it slowly, coughing, then whispered, "Thank you." "I don't even know your name, Tom," he said. "I'm just someone who doesn't leave people to die in the woods." She nodded, faint tears streaking her dirt-smeared face. "I'm Eleanor Hayes." Tom froze at her name. Something about it sounded familiar, like a headline he'd skimmed in passing. Eleanor's eyes met his, full of fear but also a strange intensity. This could ruin lives," she murmured. "I have information they'll kill for." Tom's gut twisted. Protecting her now meant stepping into something he couldn't fully see. Tom sat across from her, trying to steady his racing thoughts. "Tell me everything," he urged, voice low but firm. "From the start." Eleanor took a deep breath, eyes darting to the window as if the shadows outside might be listening. "I worked for them? The Morgans," she whispered, voice shaking. "They're a wealthy family, powerful in business and politics. I discovered something illegal, something worth millions." Tom's stomach turned. He'd seen corruption on the news, but never this close. They caught wind that I knew too much. They buried me to make it look like an accident. Tom clenched his fists. "And no one else can know yet?" Eleanor shook her head. "If anyone finds out, they'll come after me and anyone who helps me." Tom's mind raced. Protecting Eleanor meant risking everything he'd built with Liam. But looking at her fear, he knew he couldn't turn away. Some instincts aren't choices, they're survival. Tom paced the small flat, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Liam's bedtime story routine flashed in his mind, and he swallowed hard. He couldn't let his son see this fear. Eleanor watched him, shivering under the blanket, eyes full of gratitude and terror. "We need a plan," Tom said finally, voice steadier than he felt. Police, lawyers, someone who can protect you without tipping them off. She nodded, voice barely audible. There's evidence I managed to hide in a safe place, but getting to it will be dangerous. Tom leaned against the counter, thinking. Then we do it carefully, one step at a time. No heroics, no mistakes. Her lips trembled in a weak smile. You're braver than I thought. Tom glanced at her, realizing bravery wasn't about strength, it was about choice. And tonight, both of them had chosen to fight, not run. The forest had almost killed her, but it had also brought them together. Tom sat beside Eleanor, letting her sip the last of her tea, the room quiet, except for their shallow breathing. Outside, the city hummed peacefully, unaware of the danger lurking in its shadows. I have to tell Liam, Tom said softly, thinking of his son's innocent smile. But not everything, just that we're safe for now. Eleanor nodded, eyes tired but resolute. You've already risked so much for me. I don't know how to thank you. Tom shook his head, a faint smile breaking through. You don't have to. Just survive. That's enough. They sat in silence, the weight of the night slowly settling. For the first time, Tom felt the strange mix of fear and hope that they could outsmart the danger. Fear that it was far from over. Tomorrow their lives would be different, forever altered by a single whispered plea. And in that quiet room, two strangers bound by survival began to trust each other. The world outside might be ruthless, but inside they found a fragile kind of safety.